And then I hope I'm going to share my screen. We'll go to slideshow. And I think there's one more thing I have to do. I have to spotlight me somehow, except I don't know how to do that. Not that you really need to see me. No, I don't think you do. But if you can't see me, you need to be able to hear me and understand me. That's the most important thing. So our program tonight is about not being able to hear and understand people and having the challenges of ongoing miscommunication or missed communication. For those of you joining tonight who aren't familiar with NVRC, we celebrate 36 years this year of serving the deaf and hard of hearing community. We have a mission to empower deaf and hard of hearing individuals and their families through education, advocacy, and community involvement. We provide a broad array of services that include information and referral, outreach and education, mentoring. We have a free weekly email news service. We do hearing screenings in the community. We have an ASL interpreting program, and we advocate for people who are deaf, hard of hearing, late deafened, and deafblind here in Northern Virginia. As a nonprofit, we get our funding from Fairfax County, Arlington County, and the Virginia Department for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing, which is the state organization in Richmond. You can visit our website at nvrc.org to learn more about us, keep up with the community calendar, download fact sheets, whatever you need to know about. We're located in Oakton. Our address is at White Granite Drive in Oakton. We are on the 3rd floor of the ServiceSource building. Very, very easy to get to. We've been there now for about 16 months. This is our device demonstration room, or a section of it. And Debbie Jones is my coworker, and you heard her last week. This is a great place to come and try the different amplified and captioned phones there are. Listen to alerting systems, try a personal amplifier, try a TV listening system, and learn a lot about the latest apps. Debbie knows all about the apps. But please remember that this demo room is not about hearing aids. This is the hearing assistive technology room. So what are we going to talk about this evening? We're going to talk about late onset hearing loss and some of the grief and frustrations and parallel reactions that occur. And I want to be stressing that it isn't just your hearing loss or our hearing loss as it is, because we have to consider the speaker, the listener, the environment, and the message. And we'll talk about the benefits of assertiveness and effective strategies for communication. If you would like to have a copy of this PowerPoint, simply email me at boleary@nvrc.org, and I will be happy to send you one. I would like to give a special thanks to my dear friend, Dr. Scott Bally, who is actually the developer of the Peer Mentor program at Gallaudet all those years ago. He has retired, but he and I worked very hard on this presentation because we used to do it at conventions for HLAA. And it was about 90 minutes, and it included role play and a lot of other things that we simply don't have the time for this evening. So this is a very edited version of that information, but we hope it will be useful for you. If you are late deafened, or if you live with or love someone who is late deafened, we hope you can use the information. So where did my hearing go? Would this be you or somebody that you love? There you are at a family reunion with everybody gathered around, and very, very difficult to understand what anybody is saying. Or maybe you have your TV up so loud that we can hear it all over the house, or have trouble understanding on the phone, or speaking too loudly because we can't hear ourselves the way we used to. Maybe leading with an ear. Are we asking people to repeat? Or are we withdrawing and kind of sticking by our own because it's so difficult to connect with people now? Or maybe this is you or somebody that you love. You ever heard this? He can hear her when she wants to. Or, honey, I think you have selective hearing loss. I get that all the time still. But there are many feelings that are involved with late onset hearing loss. It can be life altering, and at NVRC, we have seen this many, many times. Losing our hearing is kind of like losing a loved one because we're losing part of us. And grieving for that loss is very, very normal for everybody. And it's also very important because you need to get that grief out in order to navigate life going forward. It's kind of akin to the Kubler-Ross's 5 stages of grieving. We have denial. There's nothing wrong with my hearing loss. I'm fine. We have anger. Why does this have to happen to me along with everything else? Maybe we bargain with some higher power. You give me my hearing back and I'll whatever we can do. Depression can set in because we realize this is with us forever and we can't hear the way we used to, so we're going to just have to do something about it. And at that point, when we accept that situation, it's a little bit easier to move forward and say, hey, what can I do to help myself? There is a lot of stigma still attached to hearing loss. And when people react to that stigma, it's very normal not to admit that you have one. And when we don't do that, the hearing deteriorates, and that can create further grief. We can feel more isolated and withdrawn socially because of that. And that can increase our grief and our stress. And if we don't have a good support system, it can turn grief into crisis. And we have actually seen that several times over the years at NVRC as well. We've met folks who've gone to bed hearing and woken up deaf. And this is a whole other situation, but it is possible. So let's think about what a few symptoms of grief, which sometimes accompany hearing loss. A feeling of loneliness, even when we're with our own family and friends, if we're not connecting. We might be tearful. We might withdraw and just feel generally sad. But sometimes there's a great deal more anxiety because when we can't hear as well as we used to, we're thinking like, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if that happens? I can't hear that well anymore. And truly, untreated hearing loss and higher blood pressure often go hand in hand. And your hearing isn't really all that is lost. With a lot of folks, they lose their self-confidence. And that can create issues within the family. It can alter the family dynamic. It can also change your desired lifestyle. If you're one who's out and about and you love crowds and you love going here, there, and everywhere, now you're not hearing anymore. Well, this is not so much fun as it used to be. So now maybe we have to do different things. And the social structure can change. I've met numerous married couples where one or the other has lost their hearing and they used to chair committees here and there or be leaders in their church or somewhere else, and now one doesn't want to go, and so the other doesn't go, and so they're not as involved with their social things that they used to be. And then you have an ongoing grief and a very fragile recovery with your family structure and your social structure. There could be new roles for family members. I know that happened in my house when my kids or my husband would answer the phone or take phone messages or automatically assume I wasn't understanding what somebody was saying at a restaurant and turn around and always feel like they have to help me because I can't do or couldn't do what I used to. And so the communication challenges are not only for the person who has the hearing loss, but also their family and their friends because they have to change behavior. I have a dear friend. We've been friends, oh my gosh, almost 70 years out in Delaware. And she has joined me in a way in the sense of being my friend while my hearing has gone. And we have to relate totally differently from when I was a hearing person. And she has had to adjust to that, which she has done very graciously. But I know sometimes she has been frustrated by it because she's so used to relating to me a certain way, but now she can't. So all these changes have to be borne in mind. And it happens with your social structure as well. So when we adapt to our hearing loss, there are some positive things to think about. Getting validation from your loved ones and your friends, or if you're still working, from your colleagues, and getting hearing aids or cochlear implants. They don't restore our hearing to normal, but they sure help. And there are all these assistive listening devices that Debbie talked about last week. We have amplifiers, we can listen to the TV, we have caption phones, we have apps. So all these great things. We can take speech reading classes and learn about that. And we can learn some really useful communication strategies. So these are all positive things. And we have to bear in mind too that there can be setbacks because hearing aids can be very expensive and cochlear implants and hearing assistive technologies still have limitations. Speech reading success also depends on who is speaking to you, what the topic is, where the exchange is taking place. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And occasionally you're going to get comments from family and friends like, hey, you've just lost your hearing. It's no big deal. Or, well, you can hear when you want to. Or, well, it could be a lot worse. And that's sort of deflating when that happens. And then this is a wonderful study that was done by Dr. Janet Prey, who was at Gallaudet University. And she did an intensive study on parallel reactions between hearing people and hard of hearing people in different communication situations. So if you're the hard of hearing person and they are the hearing person, let's talk about that. You're trying to have a conversation and you might feel frustrated because you can't understand the other person. And they might feel frustrated because they can't make themselves understood. So you might get angry. They're not trying hard enough. And they might get angry that you're not trying hard enough. So you feel guilty for putting them through this. And they feel guilty that you have to go through this. And in that moment, you may very well feel a reduced quality of life, especially if you're trying to communicate with somebody that you really love. And in that moment, they might also feel a reduced quality of life because the communication is just not going anywhere. And so the outcome for both you and the other person is just wanting to withdraw from the conversation because it's just too stressful. So you have three babushkas sitting on the bench here. And one says, it's windy here. And her friend says, no, it's Thursday. And their friend says, well, I'm thirsty too. Let's make tea. Now, what happened here? They heard each other, but they couldn't understand each other. And look at these consonant sounds up here, this TS, TH, TS, the K, all of these very high frequency sounds. So the impact on communication, without clear understanding, your conversation can sound a little distorted. I tell people sometimes, like living in a foreign language film without subtitles. But when we're missing those consonants, it's hard to understand speakers who have higher voices, like little children and some women, people who have accents, people who speak very fast or mumble. And then there are the limitations of technology because hearing aids can be expensive and hearing aids don't cut out background noise entirely and they don't overcome distance. The microphone's here, you're listening to something going on over there. If a person has difficult speech patterns, you can't push a button on your hearing aid to make that go away. And hearing assisted technologies, it's very similar, although they'll help overcome the distance. And some of them can cut out a lot of background noise, but the speaker and environmental challenges can remain the same. Some people don't want to call attention to their hearing loss and they won't use assistive technology like that, especially if it's bulky and awkward. So when hearing aids aren't going to help 100%, and assistive technology is not going to help 100%, we think, well, what the heck? I mean, now what do we do here? Because we always think about technology and hearing loss together. So this is when we go to effective communication strategies. There are many, but we've abbreviated this to just 10 of them for this evening. The first one is to reboot your thinking. Well, how in the heck can that even be a strategy? But it's true, because when we grasp the concept that hearing loss is only part of the problem, it can be helpful. Communication situations are complex, so the hearing loss can be compounded with problems with the speaker, the listener, the environment, and the message. If you change one little thing about any one of those 4 components, the outcome can be completely different. And it's really more than lip reading. You have your visual input, you have your auditory input, you have to have context and your linguistic knowledge. So it's sort of like 2 plus 2 is 5. There is all these variants around us. So with lip reading or speech reading, it does have some limitations because only 30% of English is actually visible on the lips. So 70% is not. And sounds can look and sound the same. That's why you have to have context. You think of words like time and dime or coat and goat or pills and bills, and I mean, the list goes on forever. And that is why it's very important to know the topic and know what we're talking about. Otherwise, it's very easy to get lost in the conversation. You want to give yourself a break. Change what you can. Don't frustrate yourself by trying to change the unchangeable. Can it be changed? So what are some situations I can control? What about speakers? Let's talk about the people speaking to us. If they have a soft, high voice like little kids, we can't really do a whole lot about that. Has an accent? Nope. Speaks too fast? Sure. We can tell the person that we have a hearing loss and ask them to slow down because we want to understand everything they're saying. What if they cover their mouth? Sure, we can ask them to put their hand down or lower the paper because we need to lip read them. If they have a lisp or other speech impediment, we really can't do anything about that. What if they're talking to us and then they turn away while they're speaking? I mean, can't read a profile, so you have to remind them, you need to face me while you're speaking to me so I can get all of what you're saying. And then we have environments. Are they noisy? Are they too dark or bright, too hot or cold, or have poor acoustics? Well, sometimes if a room's too dark and you can put the lights on, you can do something about that. If the room is maybe too hot or cold, maybe you can turn up the heat or shut the windows or do whatever you need to do. Acoustics, that's a whole other presentation, and that's much harder to get around. And how are we feeling? You know, I don't know whether any of you have ever noticed this, but on days when I'm feeling on top of my game and happy and energetic, I can do pretty well understanding people. But if I'm stressed or if I'm exhausted or I don't feel good, and I found this amongst my friends who are hard of hearing, we don't really do as well. It really has an impact on how well we can understand folks. And then there is the message. Is it yours? Are you the one who's initiating the topic? Is it somebody else's message? And can you be sure that you understand what the topic is? And the topics are important because when we know the topic, our brain does a Google search for the vocabulary that goes with the topic, and it sometimes can make speech reading a lot easier. Number 3 is you want to pace yourself because the impact on everybody can be a combination of fatigue and stress. We tend to think that those of us who have a hearing loss are impacted by the hearing loss and that we get stressed and that we get exhausted, but we forget that the people who love us and live with us or our close friends who love us also can get stressed after spending several hours with us and having to repeat all the time or rephrase or do whatever can be helpful. It's tiring for everybody. So we need to take a time out. Look for a quiet room if there is one. Sometimes you just take a mental nap or a break or go for a walk. One strategy I use a lot is I will suggest continuing the conversation at another time, and then I do it. And this is what's really important because it shows that you care and you follow up. It's not like you're not fluffing somebody off. It's not like, oh, never mind, I can't talk about this now. It's like, I really want to hear the rest of it, but I'm on overload today. Can we talk about this another time? And then the next time I see them, I'll say, come on, fill me in. Remember, you were telling me about your holiday. I want to hear all about it. Number 4, you want to be more or less assertive. An assertive approach has a direction, like what are you requesting? It has a rationale. Why are you requesting it? And sugar goes a lot further than vinegar. I want you to think of assertiveness as being on a continuum. Some folks are very, very passive. Other folks can be super aggressive, but we want to come in right in the middle and be assertive. So you need to determine where you are. I mean, what's your personality like? Some people are very type A type personalities. Others are super shy. So where are you? Where would you like to be? And how about setting some realistic goals? Assertive is where that's the goal, to become assertive. So here's a communication problem. Mom's in the kitchen. So where might we put mom's reaction? Because the daughter comes in telling her something very, very important. And so she ignores her daughter, just carries on doing the dishes. That's kind of passive, isn't it? Or maybe she'll turn around and say, hey, kiddo, remember, I need to see your face to understand you. What did you say? I mean, that's cool, isn't it? It's polite. It's not combative. It's just reminding the kid that she's got to do that. Or she could turn around and say, how many times do I have to tell you not to speak to me when my back is turned? Which I suppose some of us do sometimes, but that's a lot more aggressive. So we want number 2, right in the middle. She told her daughter what she needs. She reminded her, you need to face me. So what did you say? How about going to the coffee shop and the server comes up and has a mask on and you've asked what kind of soup you have today? Well, maybe you nod and take whatever they give you. That's kind of passive, isn't it? Or you might say, I have a hearing loss. I can't understand you with your mask on. Could you write it down for me, please? I'm liable, me, to say, would you mind lowering your mask so I can lip read you? But some people don't want to do that. So writing notes is a good alternative. Or would you say, what? You need to take your mask off. I need to lip read you. And you know, there are people out there that are that rude, and that's super aggressive. Then we have the holiday gathering. How about this one? Candlelight. Isn't that nice? Special occasion. So somebody who is assertive is likely to say, could we please turn up the lights a little? It helps me lip read, y'all. So this person has said what they need, why they need it, and ask very nicely. That's a good assertive approach. And positions are important. Do you have a better ear? I know a lot of us do have. One side is a little bit better than the other. So for instance, I always make sure somebody is on my left side because that's my working ear. My right ear is deaf to any kind of speech. And then if there's bright light streaming in behind the person speaking, I will move that person or ask that person to move so that they don't have a shadow on their face, because as you can see, this guy's standing in front of a window. Lip reading would be very, very difficult. So which is more assertive here? I'm hard of hearing, or I have a hearing loss, and why? Well, if you say, I'm hard of hearing, that's a little bit on the passive side because you're identifying yourself as a person who is hard of hearing. Well, I'm Bonnie O'Leary, and I have a hearing loss, which is a more assertive way to do things. I'm not being aggressive about it, but I'm not apologizing for it either, because I am not my hearing loss. I happen to have one. So that's a more assertive way to approach that. And then we have to assess our environment. So we've got 4 pictures here that we'll go over now. The first picture, isn't that beautiful? But you know how difficult it will be to have a conversation in that room. Look at all the beautiful windows, the high ceilings, the wood floors. This is a room that's going to have a lot of echo and make it very difficult for some people to converse. If we look here at this picture, this looks cute and cozy, but look where the lamp is. The light is shining down here between these 2 seats. So a stand-up lamp, maybe a trumpet lamp or something on this side, would make it a lot better because you've got the nice soft couches, you've got a carpet, but this is making it not desirable. Then we have this room over here, which is pretty good. I would say this chair here maybe should move over, make kind of an L shape with the couch. But as a person with a hearing loss, if you have company, you are going to want to be the person, you with the hearing loss, to sit on the couch and have your company sit around you, because that way your company doesn't have the windows behind them, and you're not going to have to really try very hard to lip read with that light shining in behind them. But see, it's got a nice carpet on the floor, so that's good sound absorption. It's got some nice fluffy pillows there on the couch, so that's not bad. And then we come to this, which is very cozy, and you've got an overhang here, which might be very good acoustically. You have a carpet on the floor and nice fluffy chairs, so this might not be a bad environment to try to communicate in. Well, can you change the environment? If there's TV or music on in the background, can you turn it off? If the room is too hot or cold, can you do anything about that? If there's too much light behind the speaker, can you close drapes maybe, or move the speaker away from the light? If there are too many people talking at the same time, can you ask the group to be quieter? Sometimes we can do these things. Sometimes we can't. So if you can't change the environment that you're in, you want to change environments. So if it's too much noise and too many people talking, chatting, pulling away to another space where nobody else is, or maybe one or two other people, and you can have a nice, quiet conversation. How about the doctor's office? This is what I do at the doctor's office because in the examination room, there's echo. They've got all these reflective surfaces. So he knows not to talk to me in the examination room. So he'll do whatever he has to do. And then I follow him into his office where it's carpeted. He actually has drapes on the windows and we shut the door. There's a drop ceiling. So we are able to communicate very well in his office. And then one more example is dining out. It's very difficult for people with hearing loss because there's always a lot of echo. And I took pictures of a place that we went to a couple of weeks ago, and I threw them in here. This is leading into the main part of this restaurant, which has very echoey surfaces. It's got a hard floor, it's got a lot of wood, and when there are a lot of people in there, it's really very, very difficult. But this restaurant has a side area for people who don't want to be in the noise. And look see, it's got this carpet here and these side booths, which have curtains around them. So we went out and had lunch and we sat in one of these booths. So all the noise was at the other end of the restaurant and we got to sit here. There's my friend Scott, he joined us. So you also, number 6, want to create better communication partners. People can change. It does take persistence and sensitivity and constant reminders. You can express your needs, explain why you need their help, and suggest reminders, either verbal or nonverbal. When we go out, my kids have always said, Mom, whenever we're in that situation, you're shouting, but I can't hear myself shout. So now, if we're in that situation, one of them is just going to go like this. No one notices. They just go like this. And I realize I'm speaking too loudly and I try to monitor my voice at that point. So you collaborate at home. You develop solutions. Couple of examples here, speaking from another room. Now, for people who have a hearing loss, this can be very difficult. It's frustrating for the hearing person because they'll shout something and you hear a voice that you have no idea. And then everybody gets irritated. I don't know what you were saying. So in my house, the general rule of thumb is, if you need me, come and find me. If I need you, I will come and find you. And that eliminates all of this shouting from the kitchen to the dining room, to the computer room, to the family room. We don't do that anymore. Watching TV, it's the same thing. I'm the only one in my family with a hearing loss. So now when I go into the family room, if they're all sitting there watching TV, they pick up the remote and push mute. I say whatever I have to say, ask whatever questions. We have a conversation. I leave the room and the TV goes back on. If, on the other hand, I decide to join them and I pull up a chair, whoever has the remote just puts on the captions. So we've worked all that out. We've worked out a lot of different types of solutions to different things that go on at home, but it makes such a difference when you kind of know what you have to do and you don't have to argue about it or feel irritated about it. Of course, you have to let the speaker know that you need to see their face. And I always ask that, can you face me? You know, I have a hearing loss and lip reading really helps a lot. And then what do you need them to do? You need them to slow down or repeat or rephrase or move their hand from their mouth. What is it that you need? What's going to make it better? And you can help guide the conversation. You can initiate a topic asking someone to tell you about whatever. You can choose the environment that you're in very often and learn how to ask excellent questions. But try not to dominate the conversation. I have met so many hard of hearing people in my life who, when they start talking, they don't stop. They just go on and on and on because they know when they stop talking, they're going to have to try to understand somebody else. So we try very hard to have a lot of give and take in a conversation. What the heck is an excellent question? Well, an excellent question is clear and concise, and it's going to limit the responses. So which question would be better here? You want to go shopping? Or you want to go to Target or Trader Joe's? Now, this works both ways. So if you are the hearing person who is asking the hard of hearing person, the hard of hearing person will benefit from hearing Target or Trader Joe's. And if you're the hard of hearing person, you're going to benefit from the answer to this. They're going to say Target or Trader Joe's or something like this. What's happening this weekend? Or you might say, are we playing bridge or going to the movies? So you see the answers that will come back are going to be very, very helpful to the person with the hearing loss. Number 8, anticipating. This is a great strategy. You want to anticipate possible topics, the vocabulary that could be used, the speech habits of the speaker. Anticipating the speaker, like, first of all, if I'm going to go somewhere, I think, well, Joe is going to be asking a lot of questions, and he speaks very softly. Stephen's going to give me information, and I know he has an accent. Mary will be discussing our project, but she has great diction. And Emma's going to teach me to knit, and she never faces me. So as you go into different situations with different people, you're anticipating how you're going to situate yourself and how you are going to handle those folks because you've kind of planned ahead. Also, you can anticipate the situation. Are you going shopping? Are you going to the gas station? Going to the dentist? Or going to a restaurant? Each of those situations will have their own vocabulary. And speaking of the dentist, how do you handle a situation like this? Okay, here is what I do. And with both my dentist or doctor, anybody who has to continue to wear a mask, and people are doing that, I will tell them, if you need to tell me anything, you need to do it before you put your mask on. And if you have anything to communicate with me during our appointment, you need to pull your mask down so that I can lip read you. And usually they're pretty gracious about it. Number 9, confirming. This is such a great strategy. You have to let the other person know what you understood or what you thought you understood. It saves you from an embarrassing misunderstanding, and it lets the other person know exactly what information you need. And it shows that you're interested. So if you're getting together with somebody and you say, did you say we'll meet at 2 on Tuesday? And they'll say, no, I said we meet at 2 on Thursday. 2 on Thursday? That's right. So I'm always confirming, and it's such a helpful strategy. And we also have to bear in mind that there's hearing and there is understanding. So if you say to somebody, will you stop mumbling? I can't hear you. What is the speaker going to do? He's going to shout back at you. Can you hear me now? The volume goes all the way up. And that's not what we need. We don't need louder. We need clarity, and we need to focus on understanding. Excuse me. Hold on. That was weird. So for instance, this one says, I didn't understand you. You're done eating? No, Daddy, I'm done reading. So when the focus is on understanding, that sends a very different message to the person who is speaking. And often when you say, I didn't understand you, could you say that a little slower? They realize that they don't have to repeat the whole thing. They don't have to shout back at you. They don't have to raise their voice. And number 10, shoring up some handy repair strategies is always a good one. So when you're talking to somebody and you didn't understand, now what if you didn't understand any of it? That happens sometimes. You're going to ask for repetition. And if that doesn't help, you might ask for a keyword, and you might ask for the spelling of a keyword. If you understood some of it, you'll confirm the bits that you understood and then ask for maybe repetition or rephrasing or spelling. It's interesting how often I use that spelling strategy. So if somebody said, I'm going to Florida on Sunday, and I'll say, what's happening on Sunday? Oh, in Florida, I'm going to, say, you're going where? Spell it. Florida. Oh, you're going to Florida. It sounds kind of silly, I suppose, right now, but it's amazing how helpful that actually can be, especially when you're speaking with somebody whose speech patterns might be difficult to understand. Asking for spelling really is helpful. And on the telephone, oh my goodness. Okay, I have to tell you this. This is everybody's favorite outreach story. When I started working at NVRC and I was still answering the phone, this lady said, oh, hi, I have an appointment to bring my mother in on Friday and I need directions to where you are. So I said, I gave her the directions and then I said, what can we have ready for your mother? Would she like to see an amplified phone or a personal listening device, or does she need a device for her TV? We can have everything laid out for her. And there was a silence on the phone. And then the woman said, you know, I think I have the wrong number. And I said, well, this is NVRC. Who are you calling? And she said, oh, I thought I was calling Meineke. I have an appointment to bring my muffler in on Friday. So this is a great example of what happens on the phone. See, in person, you would get that. Mother, muffler. But on the phone, so many things sound the same. So I will always let the person know right off the bat that I have a hearing loss. And I will ask them to speak more slowly if they are speaking too quickly. And I will confirm what I believe they are telling me. If I need for them to repeat it, I will ask for that. Occasionally, I'm on the phone with someone who has an impossibly heavy accent, and I will actually ask to be transferred, because if they repeat and repeat, even if they try to rephrase, if I can't get it, I need to speak to somebody who speaks English. And then if they give you another number to call, you want to be sure to repeat the number, because numbers like 1 and 9 on the phone, for instance, can sound very, very similar. So I will say, did you say 1 as in 1, 2, or 9 as in 9, 10? And then they will respond and I will understand it. And always, 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 I express my appreciation whenever I have anyone on the phone or a stranger out and about who has made every effort to help me communicate. I will always say thank you, and I will always tell them that I appreciate their patience. So in summary, number 1, you want to change your thinking. Number 2, you want to give yourself a break. Number 3, pace yourself. Number 4, try to be more or less assertive. Number 5, create better communication environments. Number 6, create better communication partners. Number 7, guide communication. Number 8, anticipate what you're doing and where you're going. Number 9, don't forget to confirm, so there's no misunderstandings. And number 10, shore up some handy repair strategies. And so that brings me to the end of this program. And hopefully we have time for any excellent questions if there are any. And what I have to do,
Bonnie, there are 2 questions in the chat. One I
Okay,
think is
hold
very.
on, hold on. What I have to do is stop the recording.
Oh.
Stop recording. Okay. Yes.